Welcome into Texans Pep Talk. I am Chancellor Johnson. That is DJ Bien-Aime of ESPN on the end. And, of course, the former Texans offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton. And, guys, last time we saw the Texans was on Halloween. They had a bunch of sacks, just not ones that were filled with candy. 8 sacks for C.J. Stroud. DJ, they don't get their franchise QB hurt.
I remember last time we talked about this, trick or treat.
Yep.
And I was saying, I think they're going to get it fixed. And boy, was I wrong. I was tricked.
You were wrong.
So, I mean, again, when you give up basically 7 sacks, because one was him running out of bounds, but 7 sacks, pressure to almost 50% of your dropbacks, no quarterback can survive in that manner.
Pep, how concerned should fans be about their offensive line right now?
I think it's a situation in which it's obvious that they have to address some of the issues. The unfortunate part of what we're experiencing now is we've seen from week to week a lot of the same pressures, matchup issues, stunts, blitzes, games show up from team to team, and we got to expect that the coaching staff is going to address it and get it fixed immediately.
But as you know, Pep, better than anybody else, not all sacks are created equally in the NFL. And you have a list that you're going to run through talking about the different ways that the Texans have struggled offensively.
No question. There's different types of sacks. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody wants to blame the offensive line anytime there's a sack.
Right.
You know, that's on the offensive line. The offensive line is not playing great. Well, that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, it's the National Football League. This league is predicated on matchups from week to week.
Right.
All right, short story. I coached for a team that had a horseshoe on their helmet once upon a time, and anytime we would play the Houston Texans, the owner would call me and say, hey, the plan is to double team J.J. Watt on every play, correct? And so, of course, it was his way of saying that we can't allow a matchup that we know can be problematic for our team, all right, to be the reason that we struggle and or lose a game. All right, so matchups is simple as mano y mano, man versus man. And there's going to be games in which you have to account for a matchup that may not be in your favor. And that's on the coaches to make sure that the scheme supports the matchups that need the most support. Scheme, all right, scheme. We talked about Brian Flores and the multitude of pressures that we'll see from the Minnesota Vikings a couple weeks back. All right, the Detroit Lions coming in. Coach Aaron Glenn is doing an amazing job of finding ways to disrupt the other team's quarterbacks. Now we're talking about specific pressures to attack the protection rules that the Texans put on tape the most. That's where scheme comes into play. Coverage, real simple. Nobody's open. All right, next. Say less, right? And then the last one is on the quarterback sometime. The quarterback has to play with good eye discipline. All right, if he starts to look down at the rush, shame on him. It gets him off schedule.
Right.
All right, and then we're going to see some examples in which CJ got to the top of his drop, and instead of keeping his eyes downfield and getting the ball out off the reset, there were times when it got so noisy that his eyes went down. And when the eyes go down, all right, they start to see, all right, all the things that are happening in the pocket, and it gets them off schedule.
Those were the facts. Now, how about some film? We talked about some matchup problems. We saw that against the New York Jets.
Right. So this first example, the matchup is Kenyon Green against the game record. All right, number 95 for the New York Jets. Okay, all right. And so what you see here, that's just a matchup problem. All right, that most teams are going to have. That's just not on Kenyon Green.
Right.
So in the case of this play, why not take your center instead of having your center help the right guard? Let's help our left guard who has a tougher matchup.
Right.
All right, that's something that I'm sure the Texans will consider from week to week in finding ways to help. All right, whoever's playing left guard, because that's a point of contention right now.
Yeah.
That was when they were backed up in their end zone. But then you go to the red zone, another clip that we have here, where they also, once again, struggled to protect C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, well, this clip is just a bit different, okay? Still an issue with the left guard matched up against, all right, one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League.
King Kong.
All right, that's right, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, you said it. And so, but right here, it's another example of just a 4-down front. The quarterback can now set the protection, meaning that he can help determine which way the center is going to work. I prefer to send the center all right, to the matchup that needs the most support.
Quinn Williams.
Yeah.
Quinn Williams for sure.
Yeah.
It's a 4-man rush. All right, we're now doubling, trying to help Titus, all right, the right tackle, instead of, once again, addressing the matchup that's really giving us the most problems.
Right.
It's who's ever lined up over top of the left guard from week to week.
As I mentioned, 8 sacks on the evening for the Houston Texans. We have another clip of how they continue to struggle. This time, a little bit more coverage on this one, or what would you say on this?
Well, a combination of coverage and quarterback on this clip, all right, because it's the quarterback's job to process information while he's dropping back. And what we're going to see, once again, is just a 4-man rush. That's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
All right, a lot of the problems are happening in obvious passing situations. DJ, you mentioned 3rd and long.
Yeah.
All right, right now the Texans have more 3rd and 10s or 3rd and longs than any other team in the National
Which
Football
is 3rd
League.
and 7 according to Next Gen Stats. CJ Stroud leads the league in dropbacks, facing 3rd and 7s or longer.
Yep, 3rd and 7 plus. That's not great, right? But this is a 4-man rush. You see coverage looks like a form of cover 2 or maybe some match cover 4. But irregardless, when CJ gets to the top of his drop, there has to be somewhere for him to go with the football where he can throw it off the reset. But if you look here, right there at the top of his drop when he's starting to reset, there's enough space for him to reset and get the ball out. But where should he go? There's a shallow cross route by Mechie that's going to get covered up by that linebacker. This corner is waiting on this running back to run out to the flats. This hook defender is waiting to relate to this spot route, all right, that they're running right here in the slot. All right, but CJ is responsible for controlling his launch point, meaning being aware of the depth of his drop. But right here, his eyes are down, and they're not downfield. That's a bigger issue.
DJ, how do they fix all these issues here?
It's a whole top-down issue from the offensive coordinator all the way down to the way they execute the players. Because again, right, we look at some of those sacks. Why is Kenyon Green matched up one-on-one with Quinnen All-Pro Williams? Why? You know what I'm saying? So it's from the top down. And once everybody can get on the same page and start executing the actual plan and make sure the plan is good, then they'll be able to fix that. But we're in week, 10 now?
Week 10. At
a certain point, you are what the film says you are. Because the sky, and the eye in the sky doesn't lie.
But Pep, you're smiling right now. Why is that?
Well, I'm saying because you can't help everybody on the offensive front. I do agree with the point that DJ made and the examples we saw. The tape don't lie, right?
Yeah.
It's an issue on at the left guard position. All right. So whatever you do schematically, there has to be a lot of consideration on in any given situation where you know you have to drop back and throw a pass. In these 3rd and 7 plus situations, the defense know that you're about to drop back and throw a pass.
Right.
So in that case, you come up and you declare to Mike, you just come up and you go lefty to the center. It's a 4-man rush. There's no threat to the right. 4-man rush, senior center to the left, so that when he pass set, he's in a position to be a sideboard to help the left guard. Now the left guard can overset and get in front of those 3 techniques that are now getting on the edge and or going into a bull rush. Now what's on the offensive lineman himself is he's got to anchor and get his heels in the ground so that he can stop the bull rush.
Look, they were embarrassed on Halloween.
Oh, God.
We'll go to break before they hurt themselves.
That's a bad matchup.
Previewing Texans Lions coming up next after the break.
Past couple of years, I think you see the culture, you see the energy that Coach Campbell has brought to that team, right? You see the mindset, the toughness, physicality, right? Their style of play, it shows up on tape, every week. So, and they got really good players as well across the board. They're able to add a lot of good players, a lot of good young players that are exhibiting, right, that mindset and that culture. And it's a really good team coming in here this week, and we're very excited about the matchup.
Some high praise from D'Amico Ryans as the Detroit Lions come to town on Sunday Night Football. 7-1 on the season, clicking on both sides of the ball. Guys, is this the best football team in the league?
I would say they're the best football team in the NFC. The best football team in the league is the undefeated team that's led by the best player on the planet out in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But how impressive are the Detroit Lions?
They're very impressive. I mean, they're second in the NFL right now in point differential and wins. I think at plus 114. When they win, they beat the you-know-what out of you. That's one thing the Texans have actually struggled with is putting teams away. The Lions are the example of a team that puts their foot on your neck. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough challenge.
As an offensive coordinator, when you look at some of the weapons they have, Jamison Williams, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, what kind of stands out about the embarrassment of riches they have on that side of the ball?
I think the weapon that you didn't mention is how good their offensive line is.
Yes.
They have arguably the best offensive line in the National Football League.
Right.
So they've built that team from the inside out. Okay? And so now you see a quarterback that was, all right, sent away from another team after leading them to a Super Bowl, now surface as arguably the most efficient passer in the National Football League at the moment.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about Jared Goff. Quite simply, he's been balling this year.
Yeah, he's been doing his thing, but again, back to Pep. With that offensive line, that allows them to run the ball at an effective rate. Right now, they're averaging 152 yards
crazy.
rushing per game, 6th most. In the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens are like 198, which is bonkers. But again, that's what allows Jared Goff to be so effective with the play action pass. The Texans right now allow 114 rushing yards per game, kind of middle of the pack. So if they can't stop the run, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, speaking of play action passing, the Detroit Lions, they're really, really efficient, particularly on that part of the game. We'll have a couple graphics for you here. The Texans will have some issues trying to stop them as you look at the numbers here. 851 passing yards, first in the league, first in attempts, 121 passer rating. Jared Goff is one of the best QBs in the league, particularly when they run the football effectively and they get into that play action.
I think your point of even the order in which you made that statement, run the football effectively. And now the presentation to the defense, it looks like this, okay? All right, where's the camera? Here we go. All right. On a run play, the quarterback now, you're the halfback. He turns his back, puts the ball in the belly of the running back, and now the runner is going to now hit the line of scrimmage, okay? We're in a situation where now it's a play action pass.
We'll block for you, Pep.
Okay?
We'll block now.
All right. Here we go. Say that. He sticks the ball in the belly of the back. Now he retracts the ball. His back is to the defense. And now when he sets up the pass, you've disarmed the second level of the defense. The linebackers are now looking at the same presentation that they saw in the run game, all right, when they run play action passes. And so you disarm the second level of the defense, and now what they're really good at is throwing the intermediate to deeper routes downfield because the underneath coverage is up at the line of scrimmage trying to take on blocks and defend the run.
So defensively, who will be really important on helping stopping that? Is it the linebackers? Is it up front? What do the Texans need to do to help slow that down?
Well, I think it starts with the secondary, okay? Showing some disguises, right? All right. And ultimately just having good eye discipline and playing the routes top down.
Yeah.
Because they're good enough that the run is going to look like the pass. But as soon as you are key and diagnose that it's run or pass, now you have to be in a position to make a play on the ball once the ball is thrown.
You know, one guy who we haven't talked about who is among one of the best players at his position, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. How good of a wide receiver is he, DJ?
Woo. All I know is D'Amico better not leave Jalen Petrie one-on-one with him.
In the slot.
Just like he did in the slot, like he did against the Jets with Devontae Adams. Amon St. Brown is an all-pro wide receiver. Obviously, he had 1,500 yards last year. He's one of the best in the league. So they're going to have to be really smart in how they utilize coverages against him. Leading him one-on-one and making it obvious that's one-on-one, that's not a recipe for success.
What will you be looking out for on Sunday when the two teams square off?
Well, I'll be looking forward to most. Who can run the rock? I think it's going to come down to who can run the ball most effectively. I know it's a cliche. I know we got Jared Goff, star quarterback, CJ Stroud, star quarterback. But it's really going to come down to who can win the trenches. Whoever can run the ball effectively the most will probably win this game.
Pep, what about you?
Well, I think it's whichever team defensively can prevent the other's offense from hitting the big plays. All right, because both teams are going to have success at different points in the games. There's going to be ebbs and flows in this game. We're talking about arguably the best team in the NFC against one of the better teams in the AFC.
Yep.
And when they come into NRG, the Texans are going to need the crowd noise, all right, to really play a factor in how the Detroit Lions can communicate at the line of scrimmage on offense.
You just got to hope they show up.
They'll show up.
At 8, 7:15, you know what I'm saying? Not chilling at 6:45.
Be nice.
You know, I'm just saying, hey.
That's a fair point.
It might be some empty seats in there.
Primetime football, Texans Lions, which you can watch right here on KPRC2. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Texans Pep Talk. The NFL Trade Deadline has now came and gone. The Texans, they did make a move. They traded away Khalil Davis to the 49ers for a 7th-round pick. But that's it. They didn't really add anything else. How would you grade not just this trade, but them not making any moves this trade deadline?
I mean, I just give it incomplete. There isn't much to grade. It wouldn't be fair to give them a grade whether good or bad, honestly speaking. There wasn't a left guard out there that they could trade for that made sense, right? If there's a quality left guard that could fix some of their issues, he wouldn't be available, period, point blank. So I know a lot of Texas fans wanted a move, but there was no move to be made.
As you know, Pep, it takes two to tango when it comes to the NFL.
In Nick, we trust. It's a moot point at this point, right? I do think that they're going to address the issues that they're having with the interior of the offensive line.
The Texans didn't really make a ton of moves, but the Detroit Lions, who come into town on Sunday, they certainly did. They traded for Zadarius Smith, who, of course, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, so he kind of helps fill that role. They gave up a 5th and a 6th to go get him. How would you grade this trade for the Detroit Lions, who have Super Bowl aspirations?
Yeah, I'll give it a B. I'll give it a B for sure. Again, you need a pass rush. And adding a guy, this year he has 5.5 sacks. He's been pretty productive this year. He won't do much if he's on Laramie's side this week, but just being honest. But again, that's a good move for a team that's trying to get to the Super Bowl.
I agree with DJ. This is not the week that he'll impact the game, because we feel great about LT and Titus securing both edges.
Yeah.
Well, that was the Detroit Lions. How about the Kansas City Chiefs? This wasn't necessarily a deadline deal. They made this deal a couple of weeks ago, and he's already made an impact for the Chiefs. We saw 2 touchdowns last week, but they only gave up a 5th-round pick. How would you grade this trade for a team that desperately needed some weapons on the perimeter?
Yeah, I'll give this one an A. Maybe an A+. I mean, again, you're pairing up DeAndre Hopkins with Patrick Mahomes. As you said, he had 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. He tweeted the other day, it's reminiscent of but Randy Moss and Tom Brady. Their duo could be that, but, it ain't that good, but I think it'd be pretty effective.
Is that worth blowing the whistle on, Randy Moss and Tom Brady?
Randy Moss.
Oh, I don't agree with hey, you're doing it on him.
Flag on the play?
I agree.
Unnecessary exaggeration.
That's what he tweeted.
Unnecessary.
That's what he tweeted. That's what Hop tweeted.
Right.
That's what Hop tweeted.
I got you.
How would you grade that trade, though?
Well, I think Hopkins, for one, is a guy that he would probably only fit in a situation in which you have an established culture like they have in Kansas City. All right? If you send him anywhere else, if he's not getting the ball, all right, history says that he becomes a malcontent and it becomes more of an issue and a distraction. That's the reason that they were probably willing to let him go in Tennessee.
So let's go back to the NFC now. Really the big splash on the trade deadline day, Marshawn Lattimore. The Washington Commanders, they get one of a proven cornerbacks in the NFL, but man, Pep, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th, that's a lot to be given up for a team that's still building towards the future. How would you grade that trade?
Well, they just announced that they're trying to win right now. The Jaden Daniels experiment is no longer an experiment.
Arizona State.
Right. He's a known commodity. There's a reason he left Arizona State.
So unnecessary.
Go to the SEC and play some real football.
That's crazy.
All right, sorry.
That's how they do me.
I don't mean to do you like that. But he is a guy that is a known commodity. He's a guy that has a reputation in the NFL. All right, and there's teams that will not target his side because of his reputation. So he's going to help that team.
DJ, I'm just disappointed we won't get Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore battles anymore.
I know. Those battles were special, man. Those battles were special. You could tell
those are personal, right?
Yeah, they don't like each other. But I like to trade for the Saints. I give the Saints an A+.
They needed a lot.
Because they need all the actions they give. Those contracts, they basically got to blow it up and strip it down to the bone where they're going to be bad for a couple of years. They're kind of going to be reminiscent of what the Texans looked like when they had to, trade away Deshaun and all that, but way worse. We argued off an error. It wasn't as bad to try to make it seem, but that's what the Saints are going to be, where it's going to be bad, where they're going to have a bunch of who's on the team.
The Deshaun trade was right up there with the Herschel Walker trade.
That's right. Return.
I'm talking about in the sense of what.
They had to take a step back.
What the roster
to move
was
forward.
Gotcha.
Like.
Yeah.
Pep took that personal there for you.
That
was crazy.
I came here to coach Deshaun, and then we chipped him out a couple weeks.
Let's go to Week 10 now as we preview some of these picks coming up for Week 10, and Pep, we'll start with your picks first.
Right.
I know you have the Texans on Sunday beating the Detroit Lions. Why is that?
Well, I just feel like the Texans, they're going to step up to this challenge.
Okay.
They're back at home. You know, there's a lot of naysayers in the journalistic community. All right.
You throwing shade?
Yeah, that's hating on the Texans right now. And
interesting.
he's sitting here putting the booster cables on the Detroit Lions, right?
They are the best. They are
the best team in the
7-1.
NFC. They are really good, but I do think it'll be a problem for them at NRG on Sunday.
The other one that I noticed on your picks, you had the Buccaneers beating the 49ers.
Yeah, I just feel like right now, defensively, from week to week, the 49ers, they can affect the other team's quarterback, but they're not consistent in stopping the run this year. And I think the Buccaneers are playing a good, balanced style of offense.
Let's go to DJ's picks now. You were going the opposite way on Sunday night. You had the Lions beating the Texans. Why is that?
I don't think Nico's going to play this week.
I don't either.
And no Nico, no Diggs, in a matchup like this, where it's clear CJ doesn't trust the other receivers as much as he did with Nico and Diggs. When they get in those 3rd and longs, which they will because that's what they do, it's going to be a problem, and it's going to be choppy throughout the afternoon.
Bryce Young picks up another win against the Giants this week?
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are crap. So, I mean, I know the Panthers ain't good, but I think, you know, the Panthers should be able to get on a mini roll.
And that game is in Munich, Germany.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That game is officially, maybe I can't say that because my full-time employer, NFL Network, is showing that game, but I would deem that game as the toilet bowl.
Hey, shout out to the good folks at NFL Network. Now, on my picks, I also agree with DJ. I think the Lions beat the Houston Texans without Nico Collins. That really does concern me. And just their inability to protect CJ Stroud. I got to see it to believe it. I think the Lions beat the Texans on the road this week. I also have the Bills helping the Texans out, though, beating the Indianapolis Colts. So we will see. We'll circle back to these. Of course, you know, I win every single week.
Well, y'all got on Monday night, though.
Rams. You know, he's a Dolphins diehard over here.
Rams.
We'll check back.
Pep, you got one more whistle blow for us?
No reason.
Blow the whistle.
Thanks for watching Texans Pep Talk. We will see you guys next week.
Can't hear.